Well, good morning. You guys are super chatty for 7:47 a.m. I don't know how many cups of coffee you had before you got here, but obviously there's coffee here today. My name is Ben Pilgreen. I have the privilege of being the point leader here at Epic Church, and I'm thrilled that you are here for today's business breakfast tour with our good friend Jeff Henderson. I think today's going to be really insightful for you and your teams. Hopefully we'll give you some things that you can take back to your companies, to some of you are in the startup world, some of you are at really large corporate places, some of you are solo entrepreneurs. And I think whatever organization, company that you work for, that you're a part of, even for our team here, we're really excited, Jeff, about what you're going to teach us today. Jeff is a pastor, so you might be thinking, what would he have to say to you? He was in the corporate world himself for quite a long time, both in fast food as well as professional sports. A lot of marketing stuff that has bled over into what book we're going to receive today. Jeff was also named by Forbes magazine one of the top 20 speakers you don't want to miss. So even on a Friday morning, I don't think anyone's going to fall asleep. But Jeff, we're thrilled that you're here. Come teach us what it means to be for the kinds of things we want to be for.
Thanks, Ben. Well, thank you so much for having me. And first, as you can probably tell, I'm from Atlanta, and I'm going to try to keep my y'alls to a minimum, if that's okay. I told Ben for every y'all, I'll contribute $1 to the church. So y'all hold me to that. You got it? All right. So there we go. Hey, I'm so thrilled that you got up early, and here's my hope, is that you would walk away today and that you would have some value that would allow your organization, your career, and you to grow. So that's the goal. So if there's nothing that we talk about that doesn't help you grow, then I've failed in my time. But I hope today that you'll walk away, maybe you'll get back to your place of business, maybe at home, and go, that was helpful. Now I have some tools to help me grow, because what the world needs is for you and your organization to grow. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. As Ben mentioned, I spent a number of years in the business world, and I spent a number of years in the church world. I grew up, I'm a preacher's kid. Any preacher's kids in the room? Look at us, and we are in church. That's a miracle, right, in and of itself. I don't know about you. See, I almost said y'all. I don't know about you, but I promised myself as a preacher's kid I would never, ever, ever work at a church. I told God I would never, ever, ever work at a church. So I've been working at a church now for 16 years, and if you don't get anything out of what I say today, you may want to never tell God you're never going to do something. I think God pays closer attention when you do that. I recently told God, I'm never going to be a billionaire, so I'm going to see how he handles that one. So I spent a number of years in the business world, a number of years in the nonprofit world, and what I've discovered in this is that there's a lot that nonprofit leaders could learn from the business world, but what I've also discovered is there's a lot the business world could learn from the nonprofit world. And I want to talk about that today. Because here's what I've discovered. When you talk about the business world, this is the for-profit world, right? And over here, we're the not-for-profit, all right? So it's like you have profit over here, and you have purpose over here. And I think for far too long, we've had profit and purpose as mutually exclusive. So what I want to talk about today, and this is really important, I think this is for a business leader, this is one of the many ways that I envy you if you're in the business world, because today, doing good is good for business, and I want to talk about that today. But ultimately where we're going is this. It's that today it's no longer about being the best company in the world, it's about being the best company for the world. And what that means is that purpose and profit don't have to be separate. That purpose can fuel profit, and the more profit you have fuels more purpose. So what we need, I believe, one of the ways you improve the world is you have thriving businesses. And I want to talk about this today. So to do that, we're going to talk about two questions that help grow your business, help grow both profit and purpose, and two questions that actually grow your career and you. So you may be in a career transition, and you may say, Jeff, there's not a current organization I'm working for. That's okay. We're going to talk about these two questions about how they work for you. So to do that, we're going to go on a little bit of a marketing journey, if that's okay, all right? So you can take the person out of marketing, but you can't take the marketing out of the person. So we're going to talk a little bit about marketing, but hang with me, because ultimately this is going to come back to our goal today, which is to help grow your organization and to grow you. So to do that, you've probably been asked this question from an organization, and they ask, in some form or fashion, how did you hear about our organization? How did you hear about our nonprofit? How did you hear about our business? How did you hear about our service? How did you hear about us? And they list a few examples, right, of things that you could check. Television, radio, billboard, social media, and other. And every single time, there's one box that gets checked the most, and it's the other box. And the other box drives marketing people like me crazy because we know what it is. It's positive word-of-mouth advertising. And the reason it drives us crazy is because we don't think that we can control that or have any input on that. In fact, my first day in advertising 101, the professor gets up and says, hey, we all know that positive word-of-mouth advertising is the greatest form of advertising there is. We don't know how to figure that out, so we're going to spend the rest of the semester on paid advertising. And even at that age, I kind of wanted to raise my hand and say, you know what? I don't think it has to be that confusing. I think we can figure out the other box. And when you figure out the other box, this is what happens for your business, for your nonprofit, your organization. When people start talking about you and sharing what you do with their friends in their circle of influence, they help grow your business. And when customers grow a business, that's the healthiest form of growth there is. To get there, we got to figure out how do we figure out the other box. And here's why this is so important. And you know this is important. This is just a little bit of a reminder. And this, what I'm about to share with you, is far greater now than it ever has been. It's always been true, but it's far greater now than ever. A business is no longer what it tells customers it is. A business is what customers tell other customers it is. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the ball game. So for example, if I tell you that I have the best hot dog stand in town, and yet you come and experience my hot dog and you're like, it's not the best hot dog in town, and you go to Yelp, you win. And I can spend a whole lot of money in advertising, and I'm not saying we shouldn't spend money on advertising, but I can spend a whole lot of money telling you that my hot dog is the best hot dog stand in town and we're so much better than our competitors, but ultimately it's the customers telling their friends about it. That's the ballgame. That's the other box. And again, and you know this, but the reason this is important is I've got to create vision carriers that carry my vision, your organization's vision, your business vision into their circle of influence. And the more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. In other words, the more that people can talk about you and your organization in their circle of influence, that will grow your business. That's the other box. The question is, how do you do that? How do you create vision carriers for your organization? And again, the reason we're talking about this is because your organization, I think, needs to grow. Healthy things grow, unhealthy things die. And how you characterize growth, that's great. But how can we grow your business and organization? Well, that takes me back to these two questions. Two questions that help grow you, your organization, and your career. So here's the journey we're going to go on. Just two questions. In fact, if you were to ask Jeff, if you could boil growth down in terms of the organizations you've worked for, I would say these are the two questions I would have any team come to work every day and focus on. You know this in organizational life. It doesn't take you 30 minutes in organizational life to realize that sometimes organizations have silos that are competing inside the organization. And the reason for that is they've gotten off track. So one of the best things that you can do for your business, your organization, is to get the whole team focused on these two questions because it is a unifying way to do. So I'm going to talk about how to do that. So question number one is this one. And the first question, this is yours in your organization. This is yours to answer. The second question is not yours to answer, and I'll talk about why, and why these two questions need to go together. First question is this: what do you want to be known for? What do you want your organization to be known for? So here, let's go back to the vision carriers. What do you want the vision carriers to go into their circle of influence and to say about your organization? And if it's an 8-paragraph mission statement, they won't remember it. Because here's the thing with vision, all right? What we're talking about is what is your unique, compelling vision for your organization? Vision is like a bucket of water. The more water in the bucket, the more the water spills out. You have to have just a few words that people can carry your unique vision to them. So what is your vision? What do you want to be known for? What do people want to say about your organization? And what do you want people to say about you as it relates to your career? And here's why this is important when it comes to organizational life. When I talk and consult with companies about this, they go, well, Jeff, I think we got this, I think we can check that box off, we've got it done. I said, well, here's what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to walk around the office or however your business looks and just ask people on the team, hey, what do you think we want to be known for? And just see what you hear. If you get some blank stares, that should be a concern. If you get different answers, that should be a concern. If you get the same answer, that's awesome. But on a consistent basis, you and I should be doing what I call as a vision inventory. Just walking around and going, hey, what do you think we want to be known for? Because here's the reality. Vision leaks. Vision drifts. You have to stay on message. It's important to start with why, but it's actually more important to stay with why. And here's why. When the team doesn't understand what we want to be known for, here's the problem. When there's confusion in the office space about this, there will be confusion in the marketplace. If the team doesn't understand what we want to be known for, I guarantee you the customers won't. So what I want to do is I want to show you how simple and hard this is. Because while this question is simple, it will require you and me to think really hard and to use language that is transportable to the vision carriers. So let me give you an example of how this works. This is a company called Zappos. How many of you have ever bought shoes online from Zappos? Look at Zappos, wow. So Zappos, you probably know the Zappos story. They went from 0 sales to $1 billion in sales in 10 years. They were recently bought by Amazon, like we all will be one day. So Zappos is an amazing organization, but if you were to ask them, Tony Hsieh, the CEO, hey, what do you want to be known for? He wouldn't say selling shoes. In fact, I've heard Tony say this. This is his quote, not mine. He says, I don't even like shoes. You know what we want to be known for at Zappos? We want to be known for delivering happiness. What does that even mean, Tony? What do you mean deliver happiness? How's that going to drive sales to the bottom line? Well, 0 to $1 billion in 10 years. There's something there. So a few years ago, I had the opportunity to go out and tour the Zappos headquarters. And y'all, there's $1 for Ben. Y'all, there's two. There's wherever you go, deliver happiness is all over the building. You know why? Leaders are repeaters. Leaders are repeaters. You say it over and over and over again. But it's not just a slogan. I went to the call center. You know how the call center works, right? These are the wonderful people that take calls in from people trying to buy shoes. And the goal, you would think, is to get a customer on the line, make the sale, and off the line so you can go to the next customer. So they introduced me to someone they called was a legend in the call center. And I said, okay, why are you the legend in the call center? They said she one time spent 6 hours on the phone with one customer. 6 hours. What was that story? She said, well, in the course of the conversation, I could tell that she was not having a good day. There was just something wrong. You know how you can sense, even over the phone, something's wrong. So I just paused in the middle of the conversation talking about shoes and saying, hey, can I ask you a question? Are you okay? And the person on the other end of the phone said, actually, I'm not. My husband just passed away, and I am really struggling. And that, because of the story of the person on the call center, that she connected with that, and that translated to a 6-hour phone call. Ironically, the lady on the other end of the phone didn't even end up buying shoes. But instead of criticizing this employee, they elevated her as a legend. Now, don't miss this. On the wall there in the call center are the sales goals for the day, for the week, for the quarter. They're really focused on sales. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they want to be focused on delivering happiness because they figured this. If they will deliver happiness to the customer will deliver happiness to us. But the biggest thing, whatever 2 words they chose, everyone knew it. My question for you, my question for me, does everyone on our team know what we want to be known for? And the reality for us is I think every single one of us, including me, we got some work to do, right? Now, that's a way to get it right. Let me show you how simple it is to lose sight of this. I'm not trying to be critical. I enjoy this organization, but let me give you an example from Burger King. There's a marketing hero of mine in Atlanta by the name of Al Reese. Al's this marketing legend, and Burger King asked Al to come in, and they said, here's our problem. We need to increase our chicken sandwich sales. So can you come in and help us increase our chicken sandwich sales? So Al comes into the meeting, and the meeting begins. At the very beginning of the meeting, Al raises his hand and says, can I ask a question? And they said, yes, Al Reese, marketing legend. He said, can we go outside? And they're like, excuse me? Yeah, can we go outside? So they're like, this is Al Reese, all right. So they all go outside, and they walk up to the large sign of the Burger King headquarters. And Al says, on the count of 3, I want us to say the name of the company out loud, okay? And they're looking at him like, what in the world are you talking about? So they count it down. Al counts down. 3, 2, 1, and they all say, Burger King. And Al says, exactly. So here's my question. Why are you selling chicken sandwiches? You're the king of the burgers. and that was the last day Al worked on the Burger King account, okay? But the point is this, when it comes to what do you want to be known for, you can't be known for everything. You do need to be known for something. What is that? You can't be known for being the king of burgers and the king of chicken sandwiches. That's reality. But you do need to be known for something. And if the team doesn't understand it, the customer certainly won't. And the reality for any organization, if you and I want to grow our organizations, we've got to be crystal clear on this. What this also requires out of you and me is that we have a vision that's compelling, that's bigger than just staying in business. By the way, if the ultimate goal of any business is just to stay in business, you won't. Because what we're discovering, and I'll show you in just a second, the research is saying for Millennial and Gen Z, they're wanting to do business with businesses that have a larger purpose than just staying in business. I actually think that's good news, all right? So that's question number one. Question number two is not yours to answer, but it's equally important, maybe even more important. Question number two is this: what are you known for? What are you known for? This question here is the customer's reflection back to you about what they have experienced with your organization, with your church, with your nonprofit organization. What do you want to be known for is yours. What are you known for is the customer's. And here's the power of these two questions, ladies and gentlemen. Don't miss this. When the answers to these two questions match, when what you want to be known for is what you are known for, when you have this unique, compelling vision, when you say that I've got the best hot dog stand in town and people experience and said, no, the customer service, it's absolutely amazing, you need to go there. Here's what happens when you do this. You leverage the other box. You, in essence, do this. You create a sales force for free. Did you see what I did that? Salesforce is here. There we are right there. And that, I didn't charge them anything for that. Salesforce for free. That's the other box. But the reality for my organization, let me pick on me, and the reality for your organization is that there's a gap, all right? So the goal of any team should be to shrink the gap between those two questions. How do you shrink the gap between those two questions so that you can leverage the other box and create a sales force for free? By the way, let me just pause and say this. Let me go back to the questions. These two questions, just a little bit of a hint to where we're going to close today. These two questions are just, if not more powerful for you as a person. What do you want to be known for as a human being? And if you were to come up to me after we're done today, which I would love to hear, Jeff, this is what I want to be known for. Do you know how I would try to figure out whether or not you're living up to question number one? Is I would have to go to the people in your life and ask them that. Same is true for me. If you were to come up to me and say, Jeff, what do you want to be known for? And I'd say, well, here's what I want to be known for. You know what you would need to do? You would need to go to the people in my life and saying, is Jeff living up to question number one? But here's the deal. It's true for organizations, but it's true for us as persons. When the answers to those two questions match, it's a powerful way to live. That's why these questions can be a little unsettling for us. So let's go back to the business world. How do you create this? Well, how do you shrink the gap between those two questions? Well, I want to talk about being for four groups of people today, all right? So this may not seem revolutionary in the sense of who these four are, but I want to give you some practical strategies. I'm going to give you a strategy out of each one. There's a lot more strategies in the book that you now have. But the four basically are these. These are the four people or four groups of people that any organization needs to be for. For the customer, or if you're a church or nonprofit, attender, donor, participant. For the team, for the larger community, I'll explain that. And then ultimately for you. I'll talk about that in just a second. Now, when I talk to businesses, they go, Jeff, we got it. And check that box, as I mentioned earlier. But when I push them on this, I'll say, here's how your messaging looks to the world. That the business isn't here to serve these four. That in essence, when I look at a lot of marketing, and a lot of messaging, a lot of organizations, basically these four are here to serve the business. And the line here is that if a business was a person, many businesses would be considered narcissists. If you look at their Instagram feed, it's like, look how great we are. Did you know how much better we are than our competitors? Look at us, look at us, look at us. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about our organization. What I'm saying is that we should flip the script. Let me give you an example, a football example. I'm jealous about how the 49ers are doing. I'm from Atlanta. We've built more stadiums and we've won championships in Atlanta. That's a sad reality. So if you look at it from a football standpoint, a lot of marketing for so long, and really business building, has been like this. We consider the business to be on the field, and the customers are in the stands cheering the business on. What I'm asking you to do is flip the script. Put the customer on the field, the organization in the stands, and the business and the organization should be cheering the customer on the field. They're the star, not us. And that kind of messaging and approach looks like this, that the business serves these four, and that thriving organizations of the future will understand this, that they will be more concerned about becoming a fan of the customer instead of getting the customer to become a fan of the business. But when you do this, when you show that the customer, that you're for them, they actually return the favor. And that's why this is so powerful. So let me show you how this works for the customer. And I want to give you one social media strategy. And I know you already probably know this. But let me, and if you're a small business here today, people my age, I'm 54, I'm halfway dead. So people my age, what they say is, well, I know I should do social media for my business, but I don't even know how to do it. I want to give you a very specific, competitive breakthrough strategy that I would say many, if not most of your competitors aren't doing. When it comes to social media, and this, by the way, is not a social media presentation, but what I want to share with you is how one small shift in your messaging can change this approach. Many organizations, when it comes to social media, they don't do social media. They think they do, but they don't. Most organizations do digital media. They forget the social in the social media. And so it's all about how great the business is, and there's very little customer interaction. Most organizations stay on their platform, and they never venture onto the platform of their customers and engage with them there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the game is going, and most organizations aren't doing it. Most organizations are just posting about themselves constantly and never having any interaction. And that's putting the spotlight on the business. That's why a strategy I want to give you today is simply this: less posts and more dialogue. Less post about how great the business is and more dialogue about how great the customer is. Let me give you an example. There's a little organization in Atlanta where I'm from. They're Orange. They're a building supply company. Maybe that have given you a little clue. Okay, so I was with Home Depot recently, and I told them, hey, do y'all know how many, there's another y'all there, Ben, do you know how many followers you have on Instagram? And they said, no. I said, you have 750,000. I said, do you know how many you're following? They said, no. I said, 400. Do you know of those 400 who those 400 are? No. I said, basically, it's your own stores. So basically, you're following yourself. This is a narcissistic tendency. I'm not saying you're narcissistic, Home Depot. I'm saying you're displaying narcissistic tendencies. And do you know of the 750,000 followers, you're sitting on a gold mine of social media contacts and dialogue? For example, let me show you one. I pulled up Dana. Dana is following Home Depot. I said, Dana just got engaged. What if you, Home Depot, went on her platform and said, Dana, congratulations from your friends at Home Depot. We're so excited that you got married or getting married. Then 6 months later, Dana wakes up. She and her husband look at their floor, and they're like, you know what? We don't like our floor. Let's do a little home improvement this weekend. They're getting their car. They're driving down. You got Lowe's on one side. You got Home Depot on the other. Do you think the conversation, hey, remember the time Home Depot commented on my Instagram post? Do you think that would resonate? Absolutely. Now, pushback on this I get from organizations is, Jeff, we can't do that for everyone. You don't have to do it for everyone. Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone, because Dana will begin to talk. Let me give you an example from my world. A couple of years ago, my daughter, Jessie, graduated from high school, and we said, honey, we're so excited about this. And so when she was going to college, back to college, we said, hey, let's go celebrate by seeing one of your favorite musical duos, Johnny Swim. Anybody ever heard of Johnny Swim? Yeah, some of us have heard of Johnny Swim. I thought they were Olympic swimmers, but apparently they're a really good musical group. So my wife, Wendy, said, hey, let's do this. I said, great idea. And then Wendy came to me and said, hey, for $50 extra a ticket, we could get backstage passes to meet Johnny Swim. Well, I'm not good at math, but I'm told 50 times 4 is 200. We're already spending a lot on our college education. I'm like, I don't think we should do that, so we didn't do it. So Jessie's interning at the time, and this organization that she's interning with, they featured Jessie Henderson. Jessie loves this food, and she likes this and that, and she's obsessed with Johnny Swim, and they tag Johnny Swim. Well, a few minutes after this, my phone starts blowing up with our little Fam Jam text thread. And my daughter had taken a screenshot of this Instagram post with the letters OMG. She's a preacher's kid. That stands for oh my gosh. And so she sent that to us. And Johnny Swim had commented back to Jessie. And they said, we love you too, Jessie. We're obsessed with you. Her phone started blowing up because her friends saw it. And guess what happened? We bought the backstage passes. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jeff, this is a preacher story. This didn't really happen. So this is a picture of the backstage moment, all right? And do you know why Johnny Swim is smiling? Because they're $200 richer, okay? Now, watch this, folks. Does Johnny Swim need to tell us when their new CD and when their tour is coming out? Absolutely. We need to know that information. We're big Johnny Swim fans. But they don't stay locked in on their platform. Here's what happened. They went off of another platform and talked to one of their fans, and they made a difference, okay? And don't miss this. Here I am in San Francisco. That picture was taken in Atlanta. Here I am in San Francisco. Half of the room, you've never heard of Johnny Swim until now. You know who I am now? I'm a vision carrier of Johnny Swim. And they're paying me nothing, and they should pay me something, okay? I'm just saying. So the point is this. In fact, I was with a nonprofit organization in Charlotte, big nonprofit, and I was talking about this, and a lady raised her hand. She goes, I think I know what you're talking about. So huge Starbucks fan. I posted at Starbucks with my Starbucks mug, and Starbucks commented on my picture and said, this is awesome. Thanks for loving us. We love you. And she said, I took a screenshot of it and sent it to all my friends. I said, look, they noticed me. I said, okay, time out. How many Starbucks posts have you taken a screenshot of and sent to your friends? She said, oh, I've never done it before. Exactly. The more personable that you can get on social media, the more remarkable your organization will be. And don't get locked into the thing of, I can't do it for everybody, as I mentioned. Have a system of how to do this. And I teach you how to do that in the book. Now, that's just one strategy. This one, though, is actually probably more important. And here's why. When it comes to being for people, the customer is eventually treated like the team is treated. The customer is eventually treated like the team is treated. So when I worked in the quick service restaurant industry, I would go up to all kinds of competitors. I could tell how the team member was being treated because it was flowing right to me. If they didn't look at me in the eye, if they didn't smile, if it looked like they were just kind of mad that I was even there, then I could say that's how they're being treated behind the counter. Because we can say we have the best customer culture in all the land, but if our team culture is dysfunctional, it'll ultimately land right back over here. We can't have a healthy customer culture with a dysfunctional team culture. So if you were to ask the question, how do you create a for the team culture? Well, here's the cool news. Today, you're going to get this, and you don't have to write this down because you're going to get an email a little later today about this. I'm going to send you, or actually Ben and the Epic team are going to send you this diagram. This diagram is basically a way for every organization. If you'll just do these 5 things every single day, what you do is you create a for the team culture by design. Because the culture in your organization is created either by default, I don't have time for it, okay, well then that's how you're creating your culture, or by design. And this is a way. It's not the way. I don't know that there is the way, but this is a way, and this is based on things I've observed, things I've experienced, and things I've learned, and I'm handing them to you. One of these, real quick, is appreciate consistently. And this basically, the question here is, what is your gratitude system at work? What do I mean by that? Well, we're in the season of gratefulness, by the way, November. Unexpressed gratitude communicates in gratitude. That's true in life, but it's exceptionally true in the business world. And if you and I just got to be passionate, handwriting, thank you note writers to the people we worked for and worked with, I'm telling you, it would have a tremendous impact. Let me give you a quick story about this. Speaking of Home Depot, Frank Blake is a friend of mine. Frank's the former CEO of Home Depot. When the Home Depot board asked Frank to take over, they'd actually fired his predecessor, and Home Depot was in a pretty bad mess. So Frank comes in, and he says, I got to change part of the culture. And you know what he started doing? He just started writing thank you notes. You know how many he would write in a week? 100 thank you notes a week. 100 thank you notes. I'm like, okay, Frank, tell me how this works. He said, well, I would get the regions to send me stories on Friday, and on Sunday afternoon, I would take all of these stories and I would write them to the associates about the story that I had heard. Now, my favorite Frank Blake story is one time he's in a Home Depot store, and an associate comes up to him and says, Mr. Blake, you wrote me a thank you note a few months ago. I'm so grateful for it, but I have a question. Can you write me another one? And Frank goes, well, okay, but why do you want me to write you another one? He said, well, when I got your note, I showed it to my wife and my friends, and they were convinced that this wasn't real. It was actually computer generated. And that if you took it and put it underwater, the ink would not run because it was not a real handwritten note. He goes, wow, that was probably true about that. Why would Frank Blake write me a handwritten thank you note? So he takes the note, puts it underwater. The good news is the ink ran. The bad news is the ink ran and it ruined his note, right? So that's why I'm saying, can you write me another one? The reason I say that, and we're not all Frank Blake, I get that. But ladies and gentlemen, the bar is so low. If you and I would encourage people at work, here's the incredible thing about encouragement. Encouragement is never small when you're on the receiving end of it. And the opportunity to encourage people on a platform called the business world is incredibly important and sadly incredibly rare. You can change that. And if you don't change it, you won't have a great customer culture because the customer is eventually treated like the team is treated. And you may be pushing back a little bit, Jeff, and saying, well, if I were the boss, I could do that. Don't wait on that. You be the change that you want to be in your organization. So there's for the customer, for the team, and then there's this one, for the community. And this is, I'm telling you, I love these settings, and I love what you're doing, and I love business people, and here's why. You have an extraordinary advantage over me as a pastor because you have an opportunity to deliver purpose in a way that I can't, all right? And here's what I want to encourage you about purpose, is that purpose and profit go together. And I mentioned that earlier, but when you compete more on purpose than on price, your profit grows. For example, in my former industry in QSR, if we competed on price, the margins got really thin. But if we can create it on purpose, people resonated more with that, all right? Now, and I mentioned this as well. In today's world, doing good is good for business, and I know that sounds like something a pastor would say, right? So I want to prove this to you. This is why this is such an extraordinary time to be a leader in whatever that you're doing. Now, I want to show you a commercial that came out just a few weeks ago. As you know, I grew up in Atlanta. When you grow up in Atlanta, they teach you to do one thing, and that is to drink Coca-Cola, and I do that really well. And so Coke, I'm a huge Coca-Cola fan, all right, from Atlanta. But one of the things I've noticed about Coke is they seem to be a little bit ahead in terms of marketing research. And when I see their commercials, I'm asking the question, what have they seen in their research that has created this ad, all right? Because there's research that is producing all of these ads. So a few weeks ago, I'm minding my own business, I'm watching football, and this ad comes on the screen. And before I show you this TV spot, that's how I want you to think. What kind of marketing research pushed this ad out into the world? And not only that, I want you to hear for this phrase, in today's world, doing good is good for business. They won't say it that way, but I want you to see what's happening. The first few seconds of the commercial, it's all about Coke, spotlighting the products. And then the spotlight begins to shift to you. That's where this game is going. Watch this.
Dear Future Us, we have a mission to help hand everyone a better world.
Through what we make and the actions we take.
That's why we at the Coca-Cola Company make shore-breaks with actual coconuts, mornings with real fruit, treats for celebrations, water with added minerals for taste, and halftime with natural sweeteners.
Dear Future Us, that's why we're striving to do good.
Provide relief when our hometowns need us, and help our communities get the education they deserve. Wherever you are now, we hope you're living life to the fullest, having fun on your birthday, no matter how old you're getting, and helping to make sure the people who count on us inherit the resources we have and the beauty we see.
Dear Future Us, we're doing this today so you can do even more. The Coca-Cola Company.
See the spotlight? Dear Future Us, hey, we're doing this for you. In other words, what are we doing to make the world better? Now, this is an incredible insight from Coca-Cola and other organizations. But here's what the research is showing. Let me show you probably some of the research they saw. This is from the Harvest Group. Each year they do research on meaningful brands. What they discovered is that 75% of people expect brands to contribute to our well-being and quality of life. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Here's the challenge. Only 40% believes brands are actually doing this. So, and the younger you go with the research, the more this goes higher and higher. There's this expectation to say, what are you doing to make our world better? And if there's a competitor that comes along that is making a greater purpose in the world, we'll just go with them, even if they cost a little bit more. That's where this is going. 74%, don't miss this, 74% would not care if the brands they use disappeared. And here's why. They believe these brands don't truly care about them. They're just selling to them. What are you doing for me? And then only 27% believe brands they use make life better. This is why to be for the larger community is really good business strategy. So that's for the customer, for the team, for the community, but maybe the most important one, ironically, is for you. And here's why you need to be for you. Because when you're for you, a healthy you, a rested you, an inspired you does something for the other three. Because the best gift that you can give your business is a healthy and inspired you. Now, let me challenge you with this today to close. One of the best gifts, to say that one of the best gifts that you can give is a healthy, inspired you, here's the thing. It's good to get inspired, but you know what's more challenging? The more challenging thing is to remain inspired. And when you remain inspired, that flow, creativity and passion and energy flow out of you to these other three. So let me ask you real quick, no show of hands, but let me ask you, how remaining inspired are you right now? Are you a little tired or are you inspired? And I want to give you a test, a challenge to do this before you go to bed at night tonight, okay? Here's what I want to ask you to do. Today, one of the ways that you can remain inspired, I want you to ask one person or one organization, I want you to ask one person something big today. I want you to ask big of something or someone. It makes you uncomfortable to go, hey, would you do this for me? Or would you do this for my organization? If you're a nonprofit here today, you might need to pick up the phone and say, would you contribute this amount of money at the end of the year? I want you to ask big. And that will scare you, but it will also cause you to remain inspired. And I want to push you a little bit. Your responsibility is the ask. It's their responsibility to answer. You know what I decided to do? I've decided to no longer start answering for other people. I'm just going to ask them and let them answer as they see fit. So let me give you a couple of examples of how this works, and then we'll let you go to work. I mentioned my daughter, Jessie, when she graduated from high school. By the way, I have a son, too. I love him as well. Okay, no stories about Holiday, though. When she graduated, I said, honey, where do you want to go? Let's celebrate. She said, I'd love to go out to San Francisco. I've never been out there. So, that's great. And then I realized that Pixar was out here nearby. And we grew up watching all these Pixar movies. In fact, we would put Pixar movies in the back of the car. I listened to Finding Nemo 10 times before I even ever watched it, right? And so I thought, how cool, since we grew up a Pixar family, how cool if we actually got a private studio tour of Pixar. And I'd met Ed Catmull for like 12 seconds one time at some kind of conference, got my picture with him. So you know what I decided to do? I decided to do what I'm asking you to do, ask big. So I wrote Ed Catmull a letter. I said, Mr. Catmull, I know you don't know who I am, but we got our picture together a few years ago, see? #stalker. And so my daughter has graduated from high school. We're coming out to San Francisco. We grew up big Pixar fans. I know you don't know who I am, but could we get a private studio tour with my family? And as I'm writing this letter, guess what's happening? There's another voice. By the way, do you talk to yourself? Some of you do. The rest of you are liars. All of us talk to ourselves, right? And so there's another voice in my head, and you know what the other voice is saying? This is a complete and total waste of your time. This is a complete and total waste of good money toward a postage stamp. It's like throwing a letter in the ocean and expecting it to get to Pixar. But over here, this voice is going, wouldn't this be amazing? The voice over here is saying, this is a complete and total waste of time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our life. And your challenge as a leader is to listen to more times this voice than that one. And I'll encourage you, I'll remind you this is true. If you ask big, you'll get a lot more no's, but you'll get a lot more yeses without saying it. So I decided to listen to this voice. And I put the letter in the mail, and I don't hear back from Pixar. So what happens when you don't hear back? Because I didn't hear back from them. You know what you do? You keep asking. And I didn't hear back from Pixar until 4 months later. I get a call. It said Oakland, California. I didn't really know anybody from Oakland, California at the time, so I didn't answer it. And then later that night, I had a voicemail, and it said, Mr. Henderson, this is Wendy from Ed Catmull's office from Pixar. We got your letter. We would love to give you and your family a private tour. I just looked at my phone and said, shut up. It actually worked. So fast forward, we get out here. This is a couple years ago. We pull up to the iconic Pixar gates that Steve Jobs created, and I'm drive up to the security guard, and he looks at me like he's a little puzzled, and I said, hello, we're the Hendersons from Swanee, Georgia, Pause, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna happen. My kids will never let me hear the end of this. When Dad drove up and got arrested at Pixar, and he smiled and said, welcome, Hendersons from Swanee, Georgia. We're thrilled you're here. They gave us these little badges that said strangers from the outside. I love that. We got this private tour, and I don't know, maybe it's because I said y'all a lot, and we're just so sweet from Georgia, but they stopped the tour and said, okay, we're going to do something we don't really do. We're going to take you backstage and actually see a movie that they're currently working on. So at the time, they were currently working on the movie Coco. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but that's when they were working on it when we were there. We had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that says if you tell anybody about what you see, we will kill you, which is a little alarming. We signed it. It was amazing. We got to go up and see where Steve Jobs' office was. They fed us lunch. But halfway through, my daughter comes up to me and she says, Dad, this is so cool. And in that moment, well, first of all, I stopped being cool to my kids 15 years ago. But in that moment, I thought, oh, I'm so glad I listened to this voice. Because you're not going to get a yes every time. I'm just looking for a few yeses. And in that moment, when I think big, it requires me to remain inspired. So who are you going to ask big of today? I triple dog dare you. I just laid down the gauntlet, all right? You have no choice but to ask big. And you're like, well, Jeff, that was 2 years ago. Who are you asking big? Let me share with you my current asking big moment, all right? A few weeks ago, I was praying, and the book just came out last month, and I said, God, I need a breakthrough because I want this message to get out into the business world because we need businesses to grow. And God doesn't speak audibly to me, but I just felt like something, I just heard this, didn't hear anything. I just felt like God said, send the book to Oprah. I don't know Oprah, okay? But you know what I've been doing in the last few weeks? I've been asking people, do you know Oprah? A couple weeks ago, I put on LinkedIn, does anyone know Oprah? And I started getting messages, and it's amazing. By the way, does anyone know Oprah here? All right, no. Okay, but it's been amazing. I now know the pilot of her private jet. Never would have known that, okay? And then last Thursday, just last week, I was doing a podcast in Nashville. Wasn't quite familiar with the podcast about the book. So before the podcast is recording, the guy that's doing the podcast, he's saying, hey, Jeff, tell me your background. I said, we'll talk about me later, but tell me about your background. And he said, well, have you ever heard of Wheel of Fortune? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I helped launch that. Have you ever heard of Jeopardy? I said, yeah, I helped launch that. He goes, and I also helped launch the Oprah Winfrey Show. Shut up. So he now has the audio portion of the book. He's listening to it, so pray that he likes it. And he says he might get it to Oprah. Then I've gotten to the editor of Oprah magazine. You know what she got yesterday from me? She got ice cream from me and a book that basically said, while you eat this ice cream, can you just read the first chapter of my book? That's all I'm asking, okay? Now, am I going to get to meet Oprah? I don't know, but I'm going to ask. I might get arrested, but I'm going to ask, okay? So the point is this. Listen to this voice, and here's why, and I'll close with this. When you listen to this voice, it allows you to really lean into what you want to be known for. Because you know who knows this story and has heard all about this story? My two kids. And if I ever do get to meet Oprah, they're going to be right there because I want them to be people who dream big and make this world a better place. And one of the ways you do that is you let this world know that you want to be for this world and bring change. The reason I want to meet Oprah isn't just to meet Oprah. I think she's amazing. The reason I want to meet Oprah is to get this message into the world because I think it can help. Not because of anything I've written, but because of things I've observed and shared and experienced. But ultimately, this is the message I think I want to share with her and with you. And the business world, church world too, but the business world is a really great platform for this. In a hypercritical, this is why I came today, by the way, one of the reasons. In a hypercritical, cynical world, often known for what it's against, Let's be a community of business leaders, nonprofit leaders, people who are known more for what we're for. So when we started our church, we asked the question, what is the church known for? And we sadly came up with this answer, that many people are more familiar with what the church is against rather than what the church is for. As for us, we're going to be known for what and who we're for. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the way I think you change the world. And it's why me and my little southern accent got on a plane yesterday to be here for you, because I believe in this part of the world. I mean, this part of the world, are you kidding me? Just walking around here, I got lost just walking here. There's all kinds of things just in this vicinity. You all are doing amazing things. We need you to live out this message. You are living out this message. You can live out this message. My hope is this book that you now have will help you do just that. So I think I owe $4 to Epic Church for the y'alls. I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you have any questions about here, I'm going to be sticking around later. Would love to talk to you. But would you give it up for Ben and the team who got here early to set all this up? Thanks, buddy.
So good.
Okay.
You guys glad you got up early on a Friday? Yeah, let me just finish with 3 things, and then we'll send you on your way. For those of you that don't normally get to the office till 10, I don't know what you'll do for the next hour and a half. A few things, Jeff. We have just, I'm glad that you gave this, and I know a lot. I think the most powerful thing for me was knowing those 2 voices. Anybody else? Like whether it's going for the new job, whether it's going for the promotion, whether it's going for the deal. A lot of you who are in our community know that for the last year, I've been struggling with that voice, and finally I leaned into that voice too. And I want to say, if you're not a part of a church community, just a little bit of our story is that we just asked our church to commit well over $5 million so that we could be in this city to stay, to make sure we're for this place that God's called us to. Second thing I want you to know about our church is that we have tried to create our Sundays so that we inform and influence what you all do Monday through Friday. And so the business community is a huge part. We've made it one of our, this may surprise you, but we've made it one of our church's core values. And we say it this way: vocation is sacred. We believe how you spend your Monday through Friday is more important than even what we'll do in here in an hour together every Sunday. But speaking of Sunday, Jeff's going to be with us this Sunday. We have 3 gatherings that happen in this exact space you're in: 9 o'clock, 10:30, and 12 o'clock, and we'd love to see you here this Sunday or any future Sunday. We are for you as a church. We're for your businesses. If there's a way that our team can serve you as you try to do what you do Monday through Friday, we think it really matters, and we'd be glad to have that honor. So have a fantastic Friday. See you guys soon.